There, can you hear me now? I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm doing great. Aside from the heat, it's a little warm the last few days. But other than that, everything else is great. How are you?
Doing well. It's
Good.
hot here too, but not like you guys have it.
Yeah.
Actually, every day is a blessing because we don't have smoke yet. Yes. Sorry. We
Yes.
don't have smoke today, and it's a blessing.
For sure. Absolutely. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
I hope to see you soon.
Scott Anderson from the Secretary of State's office.
This is Barbara Sagaski from the Secretary of State's office.
Thank you, Secretary.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes,
No,
I'd like to
you're
call
very
today's meeting of the Executive Branch Audit Committee to order for June 30th, 2022 at 1 o'clock p.m. If I could ask the clerk to take the roll,
Governor,
please.
I can barely hear you.
Maybe turn both of them on. Try now.
Is that better?
Nope, you still sound like you're far away.
On the phone line and I can hear you perfect.
Yeah, she needs to
She's
turn
having
the
a
volume
problem.
up on her phone. She's gonna have to turn the volume up on her phone. I think it's an issue with her phone.
I can turn your mic up a little bit. We can do that.
Can you also turn the volume up in this room, please, Jeff?
Yeah, we were trying to stop the echo by turning it down a little bit, but I will pick it up.
Is that better?
You still sound like you're someplace else.
Somebody else want to try talking?
Can you hear me?
You're very low. I'll turn my volume up, but I'm all the way up and you're still distant.
Okay, because you're coming in loud and clear. So we'll just try to project our voices and maybe.
You're better now that I've turned the phone all the way up.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. Okay. If I could ask the clerk to take the roll, please.
Lieutenant Governor Kano Burkhead,
Here.
Secretary Sagaski,
Here.
Treasurer Conine,
Here.
Controller Byrne.
Here.
We've been informed that General Ford and Public Member DeLong will both be unavailable today. And lastly, Chairman Governor Sisolak.
Here. We have a quorum, correct?
Yes, Governor, we have a quorum.
Okay, I'll move on to item number 2. This is the first time set aside for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on any item on today's agenda? Items that are on the agenda, please step forward, identify yourself for the record, and comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Do we have anybody in Las Vegas here? Do we have anybody in Carson City?
No, Governor.
Governor, it's still hard to hear you.
Randy? I don't know what we're going to be able to do. He's got...
Is there any way to pull this closer to the governor? Can we do that?
I think 2 microphones are going to
Quiet in the assembly chambers, so I don't know if there's something that's in the assembly chambers that they can see.
Governor, maybe if you sit here and then you're a little, she could hear me better.
How is this?
Excellent.
Okay. Got it. We'll just speak right in the microphone. Okay.
Better?
Great, thank you. Okay. Do we have any written or telephonic public comment?
No, Governor.
Okay. Moving on, close public comment number 2. Move on to item number 3, approval of the February 22nd, 2022 minutes. Do I have a motion on the minutes?
So moved. This is Zach Conan.
Do I have any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 4, presentation of audit reports pursuant to NRS 353A.085.
Thank you, Governor. First up is DIA Report 2208, the Department of Public Safety, the Investigation Division.
Good afternoon, Governor and committee members. For the record, Saranjeet Bains, Executive Branch Auditor. Here to represent the Investigation Division is Chief Ryan Miller. Our audit focused on improving the efficiency and effectiveness of NDI's task force operations. NDI's task forces play a critical role in NDI accomplishing its law enforcement and public safety missions. Our audit found that requesting collaboration from non-participating counties in narcotics task forces and collecting investigative data to optimize decision-making will help ensure more efficient and effective operations. To that end, we make 2 recommendations. First, to request collaboration from non-participating counties in NDI's narcotics enforcement, and second, to collect investigative data to optimize decision-making. Regarding the first recommendation, we note that although the division successfully conducts day-to-day activities given their current staffing levels, they can increase public safety by requesting local law enforcement collaboration from non-participating counties. Collaboration from non-participating counties will help support law enforcement activities across the state, free up limited overtime funds, and increase public safety of Nevada families. NDI is comprised of 4 operational units: auto theft, homeland security, major crimes, and narcotics enforcement. Just under a third of sworn investigators are assigned to major crimes, and a third are assigned to narcotics enforcement. As part of its narcotics enforcement efforts, NDI oversees 5 multi-jurisdictional task forces aimed at preventing the use, sales, and distribution of illegal drugs. These task forces operate in 12 of Nevada's 17 counties. Local law enforcement agencies do not provide resources to assist these task forces in Nye, Esmeralda, Mineral, Lyon, and Story counties. Additionally, Washoe and Clark counties have their own narcotics investigation units and do not provide direct support to NDI's task forces. Review of narcotics enforcement investigative caseload revealed that nearly 10% of investigations were conducted in jurisdictions without local commitment. Washoe County in particular accounted for 78% of investigations that occurred in the counties without local law enforcement support in fiscal years 2020 through 2022. Among the 5 rural counties that do not provide local assistance, only 16 investigations were reported over a 3-year period. NDI believes that it may be inefficient to operate a narcotics task force on a full-time basis in a county or city with a small population base. We do not disagree. However, population and growth figures in non-participating counties suggest the need for more collaboration from local law enforcement, as growing jurisdictions will inevitably increase the prevalence of narcotics. Equitable participation from counties would enhance public safety. There are several options that would allow non-participating counties to participate equitably in NDI's narcotics enforcement task forces, including assigning a full-time or part-time officer to support an existing task force, establishing a rotating officer support schedule between non-participating rural counties, and/or assessing a monetary fee to non-participating counties. Improving efficiency and effectiveness of operations through heightened state support from some non-participating counties would free up overtime funds for other public safety needs and reduce general fund compensatory time payments. Second, we recommend that NDI collect more comprehensive data to manage task force operations more efficiently and effectively. NDI currently does not track quantitative data such as costs accrued per jurisdiction, the cost of an investigation, or time spent on an investigation. Gathering more comprehensive data to show which counties NDI task forces support would help optimize the way NDI allocates its resources, determines how grant money is distributed, and prioritizes the need for local law enforcement assistance. We would like to thank NDI management and staff for the time and input throughout this audit. We would be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have at this time.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on this report? Want to do these separately, or do you want to do them all together? Warren, do you want us to do these separately, or this is information only, so never mind?
Yeah, thank you, Governor. We can move on if there are no questions.
Nope. Anybody have any questions? Any board members? No. Okay. Department of Administration, State Public Works Division, Building and Grounds. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Governor and committee members. For the record, Beatrice Mano-Ortiz, Audit Manager. Here to represent the State Public Works Division is Deputy Director Matt Tuma and Deputy Administrator David Dutra. Our audit focused on B&G's extra services with the objective of developing recommendations to improve transparency and accuracy of charges for extra services. NRS 331 allows State Public Works to charge for the cost of labor and materials for extra services provided by B&G to other agencies. B&G assesses a 15% contingency fee to service request estimates as an allowance for overages that may occur. Review of work orders and service request estimates showed that almost 90% in fiscal year 2020 and over 92% of work orders in fiscal year 2021 were below the original estimate. Work order estimates had a variance between 11 and 75%. Although there was a large variance in contingency estimates, review of data showed only actual costs incurred were charged to the agency. B&G charges a 15% overhead fee to cover the cost of administrative expenses incurred with providing extra services. These charges, too, need to comply with the statute to cover the cost of labor and materials. Additionally, the B&G budget states B&G will charge a 10% rate for overhead, not to exceed $635 annually. We found B&G does not have a methodology or justification for how the overhead rate is set. The lack of methodology makes it difficult for B&G to determine whether the overhead fee rate is appropriate. We do not disagree that a 15% overhead rate may be necessary to cover administrative expenses. However, B&G should develop and document a methodology for charging overhead to ensure an allowable amount per statute is being charged. We make 3 recommendations for State Public Works and B&G to improve extra services. The division should: 1, define and document overhead charges and rates. 2, break out charges for labor, materials, and overhead for extra services. And 3, adjust charges for inmate labor. The audit found labor rates are of particular concern. B&G charges flat labor rates for extra services regardless of the workforce used. Rates range between $19 and $32 an hour, depending on the type of service. Review of data for fiscal year 2020 and 2021 showed that extra services generates both overages and undercharges. However, on average, B&G work orders charged a higher labor rate than the actual cost of labor. Much of the difference comes from the use of inmate labor. The more inmate labor used, the greater the overage. In instances in which B&G charged less than the cost of labor, state employees were primarily used. State employees are paid approximately between $17 and $39 an hour, with an average wage of $28. The average inmate wage for the fiscal year reviewed was $1.06. B&G forwards the cost of inmate labor to the Department of Corrections and deposits any overage into its operating fund. We estimate B&G charged $13,362 for inmate labor over the 2 fiscal years reviewed and paid approximately $745 to the Department of Corrections, overcharging by 94%. Additionally, we found B&G does not maintain proper records. B&G maintains a spreadsheet to track extra services per fiscal year, including overhead, materials, and labor. We found tracking spreadsheet categories are inaccurate. Materials and overhead are combined into a single line item, and no distinction is made between types of materials used. In summary, improving transparency and accuracy of extra services will ensure B&G is complying with regulation and only charging agencies for the cost of labor and materials associated with providing extra services. We would like to thank State Public Works and B&G management and staff for their time and input throughout the audit. We would be happy to answer any questions the committee may have at this time.
Thank you for the presentation. Do we have any questions regarding the State Public Works Division Building and Grounds? Mr. Conine.
Thank you, and thank you so much for the audit. And this might be more appropriately directed to the agency, but I'll let you all sort that out. In both this instance and in past conversations we've had around, say, the rental rates, common fee spaces, and the rest, there seems to be a kind of a trend of profit being generated. I know profit's sort of the wrong word, but a delta between what's being charged to the agencies and what the actual cost of providing the services. Could you help us understand where that goes?
Matthew Tuma for the record. So the B&G rates that are the bulk of where operating funding comes from. I'm sorry, Matthew Tuma for the record, Deputy Director of the Department of Administration. So the bulk of B&G's operating funding comes from the normal rental rates the agencies who occupy state-owned buildings pay. These are rates that have been charged when those agencies request specific activities and improvements on those. It's reevaluated once every biennium when we go through the budget cycle, and so any additional cash that's received affects the overall B&G rates for the following biennium. So if there's an over collection or if there's like a lot of savings, like say we have a lot of vacancies right now, and so we're going to end this fiscal year with a lot of savings, that will be extra cash that will balance forward into the next biennium and impact rates accordingly with having that extra cash, because we're limited on the number of reserve days of extra cash we're allowed to hold. So there's no profit that goes into. It simply goes and cycles into the next biennium and affects the rates up or down depending on where the cash balance of that reserve is.
Okay, thank you. And Governor, if I may.
Yes.
I'd love to see just the spreadsheet that shows how those rates have changed over years as that reserve amount has been larger going into the year. Because at least on our end, it's always gone up. And so I'm curious to see how that's affected. It'd be easier for me on a spreadsheet, but so you can take that offline if that's better.
Matthew Tuma, for the record, we'd be happy to forward you that information.
Thank you. Mr. Lohman, would you mind putting that in the minutes?
Will do, Treasurer.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Do we have any further questions on this one? Nope. Okay. We'll close that one and move on to see here. Item number 5. Department of Administration, State Public Works Division, Building and Grounds section.
Thank you, Governor. Craig Stevenson for the record. This is a 6-month follow-up to our Department of Administration Public Works Division audit, DIA report number 2201, which focused on state-owned building rental rates. There is one recommendation that has been partially implemented to enhance the transparency and accuracy of rental rate calculations for state-owned buildings. The division contracted with third-party professionals to measure the occupied and common area space in state-owned buildings available for rent and created a rental agreement that is provided to tenants when leasing space in state-owned buildings. The division anticipates full implementation of this recommendation October 2022. Matt Tuma, Deputy Director, is available to answer any questions the committee may have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on the State Public Works Division Building and Grounds section, rents? 5A. Anybody? Okay, those that are on the phone or Carson, just got to holler out if you got a question because I can't see you. So, seeing none, I appreciate it. We can move on.
Thank you, Governor. For the record, Warren Lohman, Administrator. I'll be doing the 6-month follow-up on the Department of Public Safety, the Investigation Division, our report number 2202 here to answer any questions you may have is Chief Miller. On the, this is really a lot of progress. We congratulate the division on the progress they've made on this audit. They fully implemented the recommendation to improve grants management, and they are working on developing the performance measures that we pointed out. I would point out for the committee's reference that no action has been taken on our recommendation to promote workforce diversity. However, the division has commented that process is held at the department level and is not something that they would necessarily take the lead on. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. So, they're not going to take the lead on the diversity. Are they addressing the diversity? Is somebody addressing it?
This is Curtis Palmer. I'm the ASO4 for the Department of Public Safety in the Director's Office. And yeah, the standard policy on any of our recruiting efforts and so forth is certainly tailored towards inclusion of all people and walks of life. There is marketing campaigns and so forth that target vets, that target ethnicity and gender and so forth. So I would say that we always room for improvement, I suppose, but certainly are addressing that as we have in the past.
Okay. Whatever you can do to prioritize that the diversity is extremely important to me and I'm sure to this entire committee. So I appreciate that. Okay, we'll move on to item number 6.
Thank you, Governor. Craig Stevenson for the record. This is the annual follow-up to our Department of Administration Public Works Division audit, DIA report number 2010, which focused on the state's long-term office space planning mechanism. There are 5 outstanding audit recommendations. All are partially implemented. To implement the recommendation, the division is pursuing a BDR for consideration during the 2023 legislative session and conducting a survey of state agencies to develop a financial model that analyzes the benefits and disadvantages of leasing state office space. The division also identified a vacant staff position to develop lease purchase models and is conducting a survey of state agencies through the CIP application process to identify long-term office space needs. Matt Tuma is available to answer any questions the committee may have.
Okay, do we have any questions for Mr. Toomer regarding the Department of Administration State Public Works Division? Anybody on the phone? Questions? It's easy. Okay, moving on to 6B, Department of Administration Purchasing Division.
Thank you, Governor. Craig Stevenson for the record. This is the annual follow-up to our Department of Administration Purchasing Division audit, DIA report number 2011. It focused on MSAs for direct client services and the BOE contract approval process. The audit made 3 recommendations. The recommendation to allow the clerk of the BOE to approve contracts for services valued up to $100,000 was fully implemented with the passage of SB 445, effective July 1, 2021. The other recommendations are no longer applicable as the BDR to delegate procurement authority for direct client services was unsuccessful. Administrator Kevin Doty is available to answer any questions the committee may have.
Thank you very much. Any questions on this one? Purchasing? No? Anybody on the phone? Okay, we'll close out item number 6, move on to item number 7, review the annual audit plan.
Thank you, Governor. For the record, Warren Lohman, Administrator. Tab 7 shows you the audits that we have planned as they currently exist. We'll be working for 2 audits to the meeting scheduled for November the 30th. That meeting, as you recall, Governor, is also an administrative meeting, so we'll have an audit plan for the committee's review and approval. We'll have the annual report for the committee's review and approval, and we'll have several 6-month follow-ups and annual follow-ups. So while only 2 audits, it'll be a fairly full agenda. As I pointed out to you earlier, the way the audits have been falling, we would not anticipate having another committee meeting prior to the legislative session in 2023, and then in June after the session, coming back to you with 5, perhaps 6 other audits for the committee's review. Unless there are any changes to this plan as you see it, or any requests for additional audits from the committee members, there would be no action necessary at this time. We will be coming back to you for action for the fiscal year 2023 audit plan in November.
Very good, thank you. Any input on the audit plan from anybody?
No.
Okay, you want us to approve that?
It's not necessary, Governor.
Okay, we'll let that go then. I'll close item 7, move on to item number 8, committee member comments. Do we have any comments from any of the committee members?
This is Barbara Sagaski, Secretary of State. And Governor, I'd like to just thank Warren Lohman for answering our questions. Scott Anderson, my Chief of Staff, asked some really good questions, and he got back to us right away. I just can't say enough about your staff, so thank you very much for Warren and getting back to us on our questions on all of these statutes. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary. We always appreciate your acknowledging staff's cooperation and diligence in briefing us for these meetings. We appreciate that. Any other committee member comments? Okay, I'm going to close item number 8, move on to item number 9, public comment. This is the second time set aside for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on any item under our jurisdiction, please step forward, identify yourself for the record, and comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Do we have anybody in Las Vegas? Ms. Brems, did I see your hand go up?
No, thank you.
I didn't? Okay.
All good.
Someday.
Do we have anyone in Carson City?
No, Governor, we do not.
Do we have anyone on the phone?
No,
We do
Governor.
not. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.